Among adults aged 20 and older, about 90% have had at least one cavity. 1 in 4 adults aged 20 to 64 currently have at least one cavity. Cavities are permanently damaged areas in the hard surface of your teeth that develop into tiny openings or holes. Also known as tooth decay, they are among the world's most common health problems. Dr. Collins from Abdallah and Associates Hospital gives us some insights on this common health problem.
A cavity is simply, it's called a cavity, it can be a hole, it can be, in dental terms we call it caries. It's simply decay of a tooth where there's no continuity in the lining of a tooth because of corrosion. Now it creates kind of a depression on a tooth. Could be either on top, on the sides, or in between the teeth. Yes.
Everyone has bacteria in their mouth. After eating or drinking foods with sugar, bacteria in your mouth turns sugar into acid. Plaque starts forming on your teeth soon after eating or drinking anything sugary.
Every human being has bacteria in the mouth. So when you consume like sugary foods and maybe you don't rinse them in time, those bacteria, they feed on the sugars, then they start producing acids. That acid is what now corrodes the surface of a tooth. That is how now a cavity begins to form. A cavity can also be caused by trauma maybe you had an accident and maybe one of the tooth kind of fractured slightly. Now that rough surface creates a very conducive environment for the microorganisms now to kind of start corroding the tooth.
This is why regular brushing is important.
Regular checkups, regular cleaning, and there are so many people who don't know even how to floss teeth. You know, flossing helps a lot, especially reduce the interdental decays and erosions, you know. Yeah, so if you are a frequent flosser and you clean and you see a dentist regularly, getting cavities is very difficult.
Yeah. Brushing your teeth twice a day as expected and maintaining proper oral hygiene does not guarantee one from not getting a cavity.
Brushing is not really perfectly a technique as per se, but at least when you're brushing your teeth, as I said, touch on all the surfaces of the tooth. A tooth has how many surfaces? It has 5 surfaces. Okay. Every tooth has, you see like this tooth here, it has 5 surfaces. We have the outer surface, we have the inner surface, we have this one behind, we have this one in front, then we have the top. All those are 5 surfaces. So when you are brushing your tooth, at least make sure that all the surfaces in a way have been touched. You brush on the outer surface, you brush on the inner surface, you brush on the top, and at least in between the teeth. And again, when you're brushing your teeth, at least you need to be gentle, as I said, because of the gum. And a tooth is not brushed like this, not vertical, not horizontal, but at least in a circular motion, at least so that you don't really injure the gum. Circular motion, you go behind here, inside here, and then when you want to brush your posterior teeth, the ones behind, at the very end, you can't brush them when your mouth is quite wide open. At least close your mouth slightly so that the toothbrush can be able to penetrate all the way to the last tooth. Yes, okay. And once you're done with the teeth, you're done with the gums, it's also important, very, very important, to brush your tongue.
There's no exact timeline for how long it takes a cavity to form, as everyone's oral hygiene is different.
A cavity formation, the duration within which that cavity will form can never be specific, or let me say that, because now there are several factors, and actually, you know, you can reverse a cavity from forming. It can start forming and still you are able to reverse that process, because during formation of a cavity, it will depend first of all with the hygiene in the mouth, several factors. If you continue consuming sugary foods, or maybe you can choose to reverse the formation of a cavity. So how long it takes is a matter of a lot of factors, yes.
The symptoms of a cavity depend on the severity of the decay.
By the time you are seeing signs of a cavity, like sensitivity and pain, definitely it's bad. Yes, that is why it's normally advisable to see a dentist at least twice a year. It's normally advisable because a dentist can identify a cavity before it gets to such extent.
It is possible to reverse tooth decay when it is in the early stages of demineralization.
A tooth has it has the outer surface, which is the enamel. It has the second surface, which is the dentine, which actually forms almost 80% of a tooth. The dentine, then we have the pulp inside. Now, the enamel is the hard part that is normally slightly glassy. So when a cavity starts forming, that glassy part now starts turning kind of chalky white. Now that is the first stage of a tooth cavity. Now, when it is still chalky white, there are several things you can do to reverse that. You can maintain very perfect hygiene. A tooth can still mineral itself, can still calcify itself, because that chalky part means there's no now calcium. The tooth itself is demineralized. Now that is where the cavity starts forming. The second stage is now when the cavity gets to the dentine. When a cavity gets to the dentine, now somebody starts feeling a little bit of sensitivity, because the dentine has some very minute, tiny tubules that communicate directly now with the pulp. The pulp is where now the nerves are. At that particular stage, when a cavity gets to the enamel, it's still possible to do a filling when you start feeling that sensitivity. But then it comes to a point where now the cavity gets to the pulp of the tooth. And pulp, 90% of it is nerves. That's where now you start feeling irritation, pain, sleepless nights, and all that.
As much as tooth decay is a common dental problem, you can be able to reduce your risk of getting it by doing a number of things, including eating fruits and vegetables rich in fiber and foods rich in calcium.
Regular checkup at your dentist, doing cleaning, not brushing at home, doing cleaning with the dentist. That's number one. Regular checkups, hygiene is very important. Number two is diet, what you eat. You know that people who love junky foods, all they do is just maybe snacking, sweets, biscuits, cakes, soda, and all that. Those are the kind of things that causes cavity. So if you reduce your diet on sugary stuff like that, then definitely you are not at risk of getting cavities. Yes.
A cavity can destroy a tooth once it's reached the pulp stage of tooth decay. At this stage, the damage to the tooth may be so severe that it cannot be saved with treatments and may force removal of the tooth affected.
Of course, you'll have to lose the tooth. You won't be able to put up with the pain when a cavity gets into the pulp. Now, when a cavity is still on the dentine, at least you can do a filling, at least to ease the sensitivity. But once it gets to the pulp, now it's very difficult. You know, the pulp, once injured, it can never heal. So you just have to do away with the pulp itself. Yes.
Treatment options like filling, crown, or root canal depend on the extent of the damage to the tooth.
Before it gets to the dentine, when the enamel is still chalky white in color, you can apply what we call fluoride therapy. At least the fluoride can be able to reverse the cavity. Once it gets to the dentine, now in that stage, you just have to do a filling, a permanent filling. Yes. And once it passes now the dentine, or when it's so close now to the pulp or the nerves, that is now where you have the option of maybe doing a root canal or anything.
Prevention, as they say, is way better than cure. The same applies to oral health. Make a point of visiting your dentist at least twice a year. For Good Morning Kenya, I'm Vivian Dagwa.